Alright guys, we are back for the semi-finals in the Monthly Cup 12, our 1-year anniversary, and you've already seen some fantastic, wild and crazy Over Sky cards coming out in the next set, and we do have more to show you. Scorch is with me on the desk right now. We have a great match coming up, Mino Caro versus Arianel. What are your thoughts on this one, Scorch?
Oh, this should be a good one. Of course, Arianel, was it third place? Did finish first, actually. I was thinking he was a winner as well, but third place from last month. So obviously keeping that success going into what looks like another really good finish here and at least another top four performance. And Minakaro, who has made it to at least the quarterfinals before. This is his first top four finish, but has claimed a bounty before, so has made some money here from the cups, looking to make a lot more in this tournament.
The one thing about Arianel to note is Arianel is the last Faeria Tail member left in the tournament. Now, Faeria Tail have been smashing the Monthly Cup over the last few months, and Arianel could take another cup for them. And they are probably considered the most consistent competitive team within all of Faeria right now. And Mino Caro is one of the most hard-working competitive players that I know of. He plays 2 accounts at God rank at the top level. He's always trying to become better. I have a lot of respect for him. I'm very excited to see him go this far. And I would like either of these players to go through because they're just both fantastic.
Yeah, it's almost a of course we've got King Dan's on the other side there, but it's just like either of these players are now not going to make it into the finals, which they could win if they were to make it into the finals. One of them is going to end up in that third place match, unfortunately.
Yeah, it does happen, unfortunately, but we're going to take a look at the bracket before we jump into the action. As you can see here, bounties have been claimed, which we mentioned. King Dan's on a very good streak right now, going into the grand finals. Mino Caro beating Homu just by 3-2. So Homu putting up a fantastic performance in this Monthly Cup. Banana's doing pretty well. Bananas generally does pretty well in competitive Faeria anyway. We've seen his name time and time again. But Arianel, of course, taking the win there. Going to meet Mino Caro in the semi-finals. But on the other side of the bracket, Holy Lotus and Sunkichi are both battling it out for the tournament life. Sunkichi representing Japan. So we're starting to see some players from Asia making a big impact on the Faeria Monthly Cup.
Yeah, very interesting match over there because it's congratulations, you won. Now go to your semifinal match against King Dan's.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have a long road ahead of them, whichever player does succeed out of those two. I just want to quickly go over our latest reveal before we go back into a game, because we didn't get Cappuccino's thoughts now. I'd love to hear what he thinks about this new card. Cappuccino, what are your thoughts on the Seed of Paradise?
Well, I had mentioned before, I thought it would be really cool to experiment in green-yellow flying. But on top of that, as it was pointed out by a couple of the other people on the desk, 3 wishes, and all kinds of land acceleration is going to be really strong. But yeah, in particular, I really want to see this in a green-yellow flying list, because when you have these flying creatures and you can put Embrace on it, you can just fly across the map. It is a very strong thing.
I hate to interrupt you there, Capu, but you were a little bit quiet. I don't think the audience could have heard you then. It was very quiet for me and the other broadcast members.
Is this better?
Oh, that's 100% better. If you could just repeat what you said then, just to make sure that everyone can hear.
All right, sorry about that, guys. Had a little bit of a hiccup on my end. But yeah, I was just mentioning, I think it's going to be very strong in green-yellow flyers. Anytime you have a flying creature and you can buff it, and you have the mobility of yellow with like Flashwind and stuff like that, Aviary, there's a lot of strong key synergy with green-yellow. And as some of the other casters on the desk have already mentioned, 3 wishes, just the acceleration for your Thyrene Golems, definitely a lot of things you can do with this card. It is a bit weak as a 0-2, but with the Flying Dash, I think the ability to just snowball as a collector, it's going to be much like Sturdy Shell in the sense that people will run this as a 1 of, maybe a 2 of, but you only ever want 1 or 2 as a max. But it will have a very good value for you in the game.
Awesome, thank you very much, Cappuccino. We have our next match coming up, Mino Caro versus Arianel, and Cappuccino is going to be joining me on the cast for that game, so let's get into it.
Awesome. Happy to jump into Minacaro versus Arianel. All right. I'm guessing. I'm guessing Red Rush.
Red Rush? Yellow Rush is what I would have called. Minacaro played against me a few times, I believe, late last week, and his Yellow Rush stomped me. It was the old Queen's Guard Radiance variation he came up with.
Yeah, Minacaro has done a lot of experimenting with Yellow Rush. He plays a very different scheme in how he pilots it, and it's really interesting to see just the things he does in his lineup. Because as you're pointing out, like, he runs Queen's Guards, he likes to just double land to the opponent as fast as possible and literally just drop creatures in front of their orb. Typically speaking, I'm someone that plays Yellow Rush almost as a control deck. Like, I'll go to the opponent, but then I'll just start harvesting as well, as I won't actually hit him in the face unless I have a prayer. So it's really interesting to see what Minnow does with Yellow Rush, but I don't want to get too far ahead. We see him with a green deck currently and Oakling, so maybe a green-yellow combo deck.
Yeah, potentially green-yellow combo, potentially green rush, that could be an option. And one thing to point out about this tournament so far is a lot of players have started off with mono-red. So maybe Mino made a call on that meta and has taken advantage of it with potentially a mono-green.
Yeah, but maybe an upset then, as he's running into yellow, potentially the best counter to green. When you have these last nightmares, you have Chargers that can just suddenly go across the board and hit upwards of 10 damage. Chargers and Last Nightmare are very potent against the green decks.
Yeah, the problem with Oakland and Feed the Forest, as powerful as it is, your yellow opponent can just sit back, wait for the Oakland powered up creature to come down and just deal with it cleanly. You do get the card acceleration from the Feed the Forest, but the Faeria gain isn't really relevant. It kind of pays for itself with the feed. But yeah, I feel Last Nightmare going to be very strong if this is mono green, but could potentially be green yellow rush.
Now I want to talk about this. Arianel had both Outland Ranger and Time of Legends in his starting hand, so he had the option to make a desert next to his orb and be able to collect the Outland on the following turn if he summoned it. He instead opted to wait for Time of Legends, I imagine, to pull Kaleem, and so he gets to develop both deserts starting in front and then one going towards the wall, depending on what side he wants to favor. But what do you think about that? I'm someone of the opinion that going for the Outland Ranger play immediately, being able to collect, just allows you to snowball for yellow, and it's like a very strong line. But I'm curious to hear what you think. Do you like going for the Kaleem?
See, I personally like Kaleem just because it's a very powerful opener. It basically means you don't need lands to collect Faeria. You just need the initial land you're going to summon it on, and then it can just go off and do what it wants. It's quite a strong controlling card for the early game, and I can see the appeal of that. But I also see that being able to collect immediately, setting up collection, going straight to one side and developing the lands ready for your charger is also very valuable. But one thing to note about Kaleem here, do you feel that you should Time of Legends on turn 1? Because if you pick up Kaleem on turn on your first draw, Time of Legends becomes much worse.
I think I would rather have a dead card in hand and +1 Faeria than I would spend the Faeria and be down a card.
Okay.
I think it's better to draw into it and then play it for 5 Faeria.
Okay.
But something to mention that, you know, this Kaleem play did enable by doing desert in front and then another desert in front is it's much more defensive against a rush style deck. And looking at how Minnow was just debating making that land, I think he is playing more of a rush variant, whether it's green yellow or just mono green. It looks like he wants to get up and close.
And that doesn't surprise me from Mino. Mino has been a very loyal yellow rush player for a long time. He does play other decks, don't get me wrong, we've seen him play something different here, but his playstyle grew from starting off as a yellow rush player, and he's been a big part of this game for a long time now, and you can see how those fundamentals from being an aggro player are now starting to transition into his other decks. So it's no surprise here to see a more aggressive line coming out from Mino.
Yeah, and Arianel, not sure what he's debating. Maybe he's considering whether or not he wants to hit into the Oak lane by using the Flash Run to hit into it, but I don't think it's really worth it. You want to save it for your Charger and just play it on the board. Another thing to consider, though, is how you want to do land blocks, if you want to think about that. Because he could do a land to both sides of his desert to try and make a barricade against these green forests going forward.
We've seen that in the past monthly cups. I can't remember who was playing the deck, but someone opened with, it might have been Canfic actually, opened with green-yellow rush, and this kind of land block style just completely shut him out of the game, because green-yellow rely on getting close to you probably a little bit more than other rush decks, because it's kind of a bit of a combo deck as well. It's kind of a hybrid, I feel it's kind of a hybrid rush combo deck, because you want to get these big feeds off, you want to push loads of damage with Wind Soldier, feed that Wind Soldier, then play another rush creature. So this little land block here from Arianel is very, very strong.
Yeah, Minnow is going to get the central land, but Arianel did go for the land block, so making things a bit difficult for Minnow. I think Minnow was hoping to then do a double land, Earthcraft, Explore, you know, get those lands super aggressive, but a huge stallback now, as if he does want to go aggressive, he has to build it up the right, do like a double land, and make the Earthcraft desert if he's green-yellow. If it's just mono-green, we'll just see a desert.
And there we have it, desert coming out, so it is green-yellow rush, and a very nice response from Minnow there. He's pushed neutrals around it, he's dealt with the obstacle in front of him, using that Earthcraft, using that Explore. Maybe Minnow kind of anticipated a much more defensive line for an Arianel. I feel if you play an Oakland in front of your orb and push an aggressive forest up, you're kind of saying, I'm not green rush at that point, because I don't think a green rush player would do that. So I feel that Minnow kind of anticipated potential defensive options and had a fantastic response for it.
Now, Arianel can actually go face already if he chooses to. He's able to use the campfire on the charger and flash win the Kaleem, and then have the Fnatic push the charger to kill off the Oak Lane and the Kaleem hit face.
That seems really good to me. I feel that if you can apply pressure now as Arianel, you should take that opportunity, because the quicker you initiate a race, the more the green-yellow player has to respond to you or try and race you. And I feel that Arianel's in a pretty good position, because he has two of the most powerful yellow creatures in the game right now on board, and one of the strongest and heaviest hitters in the game, and that is the charger. So I feel that this could be a good opportunity for him to go for that.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I just want to correct myself. He would actually be one Faeria short. I was trying to see if there was a way to get the follower to collect to see if he could afford it, but the Outland and the Fnatic are 3 each, and he had 6 Faeria to work with, so he couldn't actually afford to use the campfire. And yeah, I couldn't find any way of getting a follower to collect, so it was one Faeria shy from that line.
I think it's also important to note for Minnow that Minnow does need like 5 special lands to really get this deck going. He needs 3 so he can feed the forest, and then he needs 2 to be able to play the yellow creatures. So that draw there did set him back a bit, giving Arianel even more time to maybe set up an offense of his own, or just shut down these lands that Minnow's developed.
Definitely, and this is a huge issue now for Arianel, because if Minnow has any haste creature in his hand, we can see he has the Wind Soldier, those Oaklings buffing it, it's going to be a huge creature, and on top of that, you can then feed the Wind Soldier. You know, typically when you see Oaklings, you think, oh, okay, I have to feed on the Oakling, but Minnow doesn't care about getting the Faeria from the Oakling. It's just +5/+5 for 5 Faeria. That's efficient, even if it dies on board for free, basically. So he's just going to try and benefit from that, get the Wind Soldier super buffed, spending the Faeria on it, and then feed it and get another haste creature in.
And that's a common line for this green-yellow deck. You want to feed your haste creatures to play more haste creatures and basically replenish the Faeria from what Wind Soldier offers. Because Wind Soldier's gonna, if Wind Soldier becomes, say, a 7/6 and it dies after you've hit their orb, you don't get a lot of value out of that. You just get raw damage. But if you can get economy and a card draw, that's when the deck becomes very dangerous.
Yeah, a key thing now is how Arianel's going to be using these followers, whether he wants to start developing them on the board to hopefully try and block tiles. Where he plays it at the moment, it would be within range of the Oakling, so he wants to try and avoid that, I think. But if the Outland Ranger, for instance, had stepped back one instead of onto the desert, he could have put the follower on the desert instead.
Yeah, land blocking is going to be really important for Arianel, just to give himself time, really. Arianel's currently in the winning position right now, you know, applying a lot of pressure. But the more you can stall out the green-yellow rush, the more time you have to win the game, and I think Arenal will value that if he wants to use his followers in that way.
Yeah, Minnow realizing he only really needs one feed for the Wind Soldier after it gets super buffed, so ideally he wants to use the other one, I guess, on the Oak Lane, or bait out potentially the creatures defending the orb to step forward and get off of his desert. So he's going to try and use it as bait. He has the feed if he needs to.
What do you feel Arenal should do here? I mean, you can clear the Oak Lane here with your defenders, but then you could also use your followers as land blockers, as well as we discussed earlier. But as for aggression, would you feel that Arenal should go here? Just push damage for what he's got developed down there?
I'm trying to add up if this is lethal. It is extremely close to lethal. I think he's like two damage actually off of a lethal line. So with him not having it, I think you just go for killing that Oak Lane. Actually, it's so tough to say because it's not very likely your opponent has 2 feeds, and he needs 2 feeds at least to be able to feed off the haste creature afterwards. So I would almost rather that Arenal doesn't kill the Oak Lane. I think it's better not to, statistically. We can see Minnow does have it, so it'd be catastrophic maybe if he doesn't. But I think it's right not to kill it.
Oh wait, the Wind Soldier? Did I miss something there?
Oh, a huge misplay by Arenal. He wanted to use the Wind Soldier first to hit into the Oak Lane, and then jump the Fnatic to finish it off. But he accidentally jumped with the Fnatic first, and then the Wind Soldier couldn't hit it. He had been adding it up to have it die perfectly, but a bit of a misstep there, and now Minokaro with a huge chance to win. We can see this Wind Soldier as a massive creature if he feeds on that Oak Lane, or just trades it off to die.
Oh, this is going to be clutch.
This is very likely lethal.
Choking Sands is not what you want right now. Feeds it, finds another Wind Soldier.
That's lethal.
And that's lethal.
That's
oh
lethal.
My goodness. And there you have it. Minokaro saying, if you give me the opportunity, I will take this match from you. What a line.
Now I want to say, actually he wouldn't have been able to get the aggressive land if the Oak Lane wasn't able to step over. So maybe Arenal actually having a game-costing mistake there. I don't think that line was possible for Minnow without that misstep.
Yeah, of course, because the Oak Lane allowed a land push to set up a straight, clear line to Arenal's orb. And without that, there would have been much more navigating around the creatures that were kind of clustered around there to find a lethal like that. So, like, that misstep there, I do agree with you. I think it cost Arenal the game.
Now, Arenal, having used the yellow deck, trying to think what you would want to counter the green-yellow deck with. I think, typically speaking, anything with a lot of taunts is pretty favored in the matchup, or can do pretty well. So if he's got like a red-green with a bunch of Wood Ellies, or if he's got mono-green with a bunch of taunts in there, I think he'd be looking for that style of a deck. Sack sometimes as well. It's a very good counter to it.
I haven't played much green-yellow rush since the Doomsday change, and that was quite a while ago. In a competitive environment, once green-yellow rush has won a game, you kind of understand exactly what the deck's trying to achieve, and you can build lands in a way to help you reduce the chance of that deck winning. The diamond's very popular as a defensive tool against the specific deck. Do you feel that green-yellow rush is a deck that gets you the first win, and then just you try and snowball, either try and snowball from your other decks, like just being ahead in the series? Or do you feel that it still has the potential to keep winning games after its first?
Yeah, I actually think the nerf to Doomsday didn't hurt the deck type that much overall. You still have access to removal with Last Nightmare. Typically speaking, you only run like 1 or 2, and then you run like 1 choking, just so that you have some removal without being like completely blocked by a taunt. But I think this deck, it has the potential just for draws to win you the game. And so if you find that lucky draw setup where you get the Oak Lanes into like a Wind Soldier early on, the Wind Soldier feeds into like the perfect amount of damage, it's very easy just for your hands to win you some games. So I think it's a deck type where even if you know what you're playing against, sometimes you get a little bit cheesed, I think.
Good old mature cheddar coming from Minokaro here. Arianel going with the blue jump. Now, I don't know what his other deck is, but do you feel that blue jump has a better time against this? Or do you feel it's just probably one of the tier 1 decks that can find a win quite easily?
No, I think yellow is actually pretty favored. Blue, I think it's favored as well. Like, I think all of these decks that are tier 1 decks are going to be favored against it. The green-yellow, while being a strong deck, I think it's something close to, it's like a 40% chance to win, but when it finds that chance to win, it wins. It doesn't take... Your opponent's hand usually doesn't matter for you to win, unless you're up against like a green or a red-green where you have a bunch of taunts.
No, we're on the Spell Wheel train and picks up a Water Elemental as well. That's an additional land block in there available for Arianel. Now, you could push an aggressive Lake at this point, and you could potentially even play Water Elemental aggressively, so you can jump forward next turn and then maybe get a Phantasm off and apply a lot of pressure. Or you can go for the more defensive line. What do you prefer here?
I think with seeing the matchup, Arianel is going to play this as aggressive as possible, because Minnow still needs to get to 2 deserts. He can't start doing any shenanigans without those deserts, and especially without having an Explore card, without having an Earthcraft in hand, Minotaur is actually going to be pretty blocked from being able to do any lines. So, typically speaking, I think going aggressive with the blue deck can win this matchup pretty well if you have a decent hand. And we can see Arianel with the Water Ellie into Mystic Beast, like, he wants to go aggressive. He has Colossus, he can't win defending. He'd eventually just lose, so I'm kind of a fan of going aggressive like this.
And now Minokaro has to figure out how to defend and be proactive at the same time. You know, lands still need to be developed. Oakling can be a blocker here. It might actually be worth it. You're going to hit your Wind Soldier. You basically stop the Water Elemental from pushing 3 damage next turn. You're going to get that proc off on Wind Soldier. Use to feed the forest a bit in a better way in this deck, because like we were saying, you want to feed your haste creatures. However, this Phantasm, I feel, is going to have a lot of influence.
Yeah, I think what he's really scared of as well, on top of that, is even just a Frogify. Because even if just a Frogify comes down on that Oak Lane, and then the Water Ellie trades, there goes that +5/+5. That's part of the win condition for the Wind Soldier. If Minotaur misses out on that, there's a good chance he just can't find the damage for lethal regardless. So I think this is more a fear of Frogify rather than Arianel just being able to clear it off.
I think there's 2 decisions here for Arianel. You either go for an aggressive Lake next to your, play the Phantasm, and push 5 damage this turn. And this really accelerates things for you. I feel this is the better line. But alternatively, you could build a Lake off to the right and play a Mystic Beast. And that's going to start harvesting off Minokaro's wells, which is going to make this Colossus even cheaper. That's an alternative, but I do feel that like this is the better line because it pushes more damage, it applies more pressure.
Yeah, I'm on the fence. One of the other lines I was looking at was just Mystic Beast on that well spot, as you were pointing out, and then playing the Triton Sanctuary preemptively in front of your orb. And now you have something blocking your orb so that it's less likely for Minotaur to have ways of hitting your face, because he currently needs to make 3 lands in order to hit you if you were to block that tile. So I think either option there was a good line. I'd have to think about it for a while to figure out which one is more likely to win, as I'm not really familiar with Arianel's lineup yet of all the cards he's running.
I think an alternative, which kind of fuses 2 lines together, is go for this aggressive Mirror Phantasm play, and then next turn, if nothing gets removed, you're pushing 10 damage next turn, and then you can just put the Sanctuary in front of you there. It's a little weaker now because the Oakland gets to just clear the Sanctuary. Well, actually, yeah, Sanctuary's at 1 life, so he's going to need to collect a Faeria if he wants to put the Sanctuary out of range, and right now, to be fair, you'd rather push damage.
Yeah, Minnow's going to be trying to push damage, and I think you still play something in front of your orb. I think you just drop the Mystic Beast in front of your orb and just hit for 10.
Is +1 Warrior better?
I don't think so, just because you really care more about the 5 life, and on top of that, you don't want the Oakling to die. You want to force him to have that feed the forest. So I think it's even more important as well that it's only a 2 damage creature, Now, 4 damage doesn't kill it either way, but, you know, sometimes you see some tricky plays where, like, I've seen some of these green-yellow decks run Soul Drain, and they didn't have the feed, and so they Soul Drain their Oakling to finish it off after running into a creature. So it happens pretty seldomly, but I think there's no reason to play the Warrior.
Yeah, I don't think playing the Warrior achieves much. At this point, you're going to win the game next turn. Oh, that's kind of the plan, right? And playing the safer Mystic Beast, just in case Mino is running these kind of obscure additions like the Soul Drain, it just gives you a better chance of staying in this match. Because now Mino's at the point now where he either needs to clear 2 5/5s or win the match. And right now, it's looking very difficult to win this game.
Now, Minnow does have 2 guidance, so he can heal up if he needs to. It's not going to be game over yet. He can stabilize for another turn if he chooses to. Can definitely start off with just feeding on the Oakling and seeing what he gets, or if he wants to guarantee the kill by using a guidance with the Wind Soldier.
Okay, so like you said, gonna heal.
Yeah, and I guess this is where it kind of mattered. As you see, he had 4 damage for that Warrior, and that was a line that just wasn't possible with the Mystic Beast because it had the 5 life. He would have been forced to use the guidance as a damage source.
It's interesting because I don't really know this matchup at all. And do you feel that Mino can win off free Faeria? Is it possible?
You can never rule out green-yellow. It's definitely possible with feeds, because when you get that +5/+5 from the Oakling, right? And then you play that Monk or that Follower and it hits for like 7, and then you feed it and you get like 6 more Faeria, and then you play another Follower, you like triple buff it, you hit face, and then you feed again, and then you go face with a couple more creatures. And I've seen some chains with very low amounts of Faeria where you could just get to that lethal amount. I think with his exact hand, it wasn't really possible to get lethal, and I think he was just looking. But, you know, sometimes when they have like 6 cards in hand and a bunch of Faeria and an Oakling on board, definitely fear the lethal.
Yeah, it was tough in that situation. The quality of the hand wasn't quite there to set up a good lethal. I think the Mystic Beast coming down as well was pretty heads up by RNL, just putting another blocker in the way, so Mino would have to develop land if he wants to take orb damage that turn, which restricts a card draw, which is super important for Mino's win condition there. So heads up from Arianel, taking initiative with that Water Elemental off the spell wheel and able to find the win and tie the series up 1-1. Now, where do you go from here as Mino? Green and yellow have been used. You know, we've seen some of the best cards from those colors. We've seen Wind Soldier, Elderwood Embrace, Monk if he was ever going to want to run Yellow Rush. So it's probably going to be mono red and I guess mono blue.
Yeah, I think Wind Soldier is such an important card. Like, I think of the colors, green or yellow, it'd be more likely to do a yellow deck, but Wind Soldier is just so integral to the deck that I don't think it would be worth it. And yeah, it looks like he's actually going for a red-yellow list. I'm going to have to see if this is Burn or if this is some kind of an event list for Colossus.
It could be red-yellow events, which uses Scourge Flame as a finisher. I've seen that in previous monthly cups, but right now Mino is bringing the spiciest lists we've seen so far.
Yeah, as you pointed out before, I'm trying to remember who it was, if it was Sarakar or if it was another player. I think it was another player, but he used Charger to get in like 10 damage, and then his Scourge Flames just finished off the opponent. So if Minokar is trying to do that as well, could see some pretty interesting lines.
And we have Gift of Steel as well being picked up, so that does tell us it will potentially be combat creatures, maybe just the Scourge Flame, but I doubt it very much. If you're going to run Gift of Steel, you're going to want to have some additional combat guys in there just to make sure you get good value out of it.
Yeah, and seeing the Shadow Brute now, we can pretty much say it's a red-yellow burn list, and whether or not it has chargers to get in some damage, it looks like the key amount of burn is just from the creatures itself.
It's interesting because Red Yellow Burn has kind of kept the same shell for a very long time, and seeing a Soul Pact in this list, I'm curious to see what other changes Mino has made, because I kind of feel the standard red-yellow burn is really solid, and it's very hard to find slots in there to add additional cards. Now, the only thing that comes to mind is maybe taking out the Brigands and adding Soul Packs instead to try and speed yourself up quicker and not relying on that combat. But other than that, I can't really think of what you drop.
Yeah, honestly, I gotta say I agree with you. I've even seen some people cut Ground Shaker sometimes, but I think Ground Shaker as well is just so integral to the deck. You know, being able to just do Mountain, Desert, Mountain, drop a Ground Shaker in the middle of the map, and then having like Training or Flashman to trade into anything, like, it is just such a powerful thing to have that I'd be surprised you'd be cutting any of those cards. So just like you, I'm going to be a bit surprised to see what he's cut for the Soul Packs.
So Arianel here kind of giving up one Faeria to make sure these Battletoads can come down. Now, we are in free mountain range. This is a good Firestorm turn, but I feel that Arianel is confident enough after seeing the opener from Mino that this is not going to run Firestorm like we just discussed. It's very hard to squeeze in cards into this build because the pre-existing build is just so good. It's just so good at what it does. Right now, you could go for Ground Shaker, but it doesn't achieve too much. I guess Mino needs to just kind of weigh up. Do you want to be defensive here? The Brute move is actually very smart because now Mino can set up a Flash Wind clear if anything comes too close. So I quite like this.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think I would have preferred actually moving up aggressively with the Shine Brute. The only thing that would potentially play into that would be maybe a Heart Exchange, would be either a Myth Maker or potentially... Actually, just really a Myth Maker, because he couldn't make the Lake End trade to use a Frogify. So, I think Shine Brute stepping up on a Desert would have been a little bit better. But playing it a bit more defensive. In terms of Arianel, has the ability to drop the Colossus aggressive. He can threaten a lot of damage on the following turns.
Yeah, the Colossus is probably the threat that Mino's worried about right now. I find with Red Yellow Burn that Kaleem's training is actually a bigger piece to this deck than I think it gets credit for, because sometimes I played this deck a lot when I was doing Deck Doctor a couple of weeks ago, so I wanted to make sure, you know, I had the knowledge of the deck, and I just kept finding time and time again that sometimes I was just stuck on one well or stuck on two wells, and the training is the last thing I need to kind of find a win. And if you don't draw it, it becomes really sad. You're just kind of waiting for this training while your opponent overruns you with stuff like Colossus. So I feel like Mino is going to be wanting that, especially with a Flash Wind in hand. It allows him to turn the tables very quickly, and that's how powerful those two yellow cards are in this list.
Yeah, speaking of that, there's actually a ton of cards that Minokawa can have within his list to deal with a 5/5 body. So Arianel going for the Phantasm line is actually a huge surprise to me rather than the Colossus. And as we can see now, Minokawa is going to have the punish. You know, he has the Gift of Steel and the Flash Run to get to being a 6/9 and trading into that. But on top of that, you have trainings, you have Cypher's Wraths, you have any type of movement plus a spell to get a trade. So it's just so likely that he can kill a 5/5 body.
Amino set this up last turn with the shimmy to the left with the Brute, setting up the Ground Shaker on the well, understanding Gift of Steel is going to push his creature's life up. It's going to be very handy for him. I guess the sad thing is here for Mino is he doesn't have enough Faeria on top of this to maybe Flameburst Cyphers the other Phantasm, so only Frogs remain, and then Arianel potentially has to trade his entire board into the Brute. But unfortunately, can't have it all sometimes, and Mino, I still feel, has a lot of work to do. There's a lot of pressure coming from Arianel.
Now, that said, Arianel is running healing with the Emperor's Command, so even if Mino burns a chunk of his life, he will have the ability to heal up. So something that Arianel has the confidence to maybe go a bit more aggressive, maybe take some more burn damage. Looking at it, even just trading both those Battletoads on that note, like, you take an extra 2 damage from doing another combat, but it's probably worth it. You avoid any shenanigans from another Ground Shaker carrying them off, and you get to keep your 5/5 able to threaten face on the following turn.
Yeah, the 2-1 Frogs are much weaker to a Ground Shaker, so if Mino was a top deck Ground Shaker, he'd lose a lot of his board, and right now, double Ninja Toad in hand isn't achieving much. It might just be, like you said, worth just taking that 4 damage. You got the healing in hand if you need it. Mino's actually not applying that much pressure right now. He's playing very defensively because he doesn't have the right tools to apply pressure. So you could even go for Colossus here, I think. Like, Colossus is really good. It's going to be tough for Minokaro to deal with this, because not only will he not be able to collect from the right side with the Ground Shaker, he's going to have to run that creature into the Colossus, or maybe ignore it and use additional resources to clear it.
And speaking of Ground Shaker, there it is, Minokaro picking it up, dreading the fact that, you know, the Shining Brute was just traded into by 2 Toads. You know, typically speaking, that's like a dream come true as a burn player. You get 3 hits in with a burn creature, but in this scenario, really wishing that Ground Shaker had come sooner.
Yeah, sad situation for Mino, but really heads up play from Arianel then. Just going to go for another Ground Shaker, so not interested in clearing this Colossus. Oh, the Frogify pickup as well, so now could just use the Phantasm as a way to clear the Ground Shaker, retain the life on this Colossus, which is already very difficult to clear, and yeah, just push that damage.
Depending on how confident Arianel is as well, another line potentially is just using the Emperor's Command to reduce the damage of the Ground Shaker, and then getting that attack in with either of his creatures, depending on what he thinks more likely, whether it be the Ciphers or the Flame Burst.
Yeah, that's also another way to look at it. Although I feel like the double Frog into the Brute was a play you make if you have healing. I feel if Arianel kind of decides now, oh, okay, I'm going to use Emperor's Command's other utility options, it might be a bit worse.
Actually, scratch that. I think the best line, I'm pretty sure this is the best line, is you have your Colossus step up, trade into the Ground Shaker, the Phantasm hits face, then you just summon a Ninja Toad and hit face for 3. Because you're not worried about the Ground Shaker hitting into it. And the opponent can't Firestorm, it's not possible.
Yeah, I like that actually, that's really good. Because you apply more pressure, you make it more awkward for Mino as well. He has to have specific answers in hand to clear multiple creatures. But it looks like Mino is very invested in the life of this Colossus, probably thinking this is the way he wins the game. You know, not being able to answer a Colossus, but Kaleem's training picked up with the Cypher's Wrath, so that is a full board clear for Minokaro.
Yeah, insane pickup for Minnow, being able to deal with this board. It actually would have been very close to him getting just pressured out of the game if not for this pickup. So we're going to be back into a match of who can find the best draws almost, whether Minokaro can find Brigands if he goes for that line versus Arianel's Ninja Toads that are going to be coming down on the following turns.
Now, depending on what Arianel draws next turn, might just play a Ninja Toad as a double collector. Just basically gain 2 Faeria and play a 3-2. It's not a bad option sometimes if you're a bit behind on economy. But if another Colossus was to show up, I don't think it's at 4 right now, so it won't be able to play that. So this line actually gives Mino enough breathing room. Oh my goodness! That is a Hellfire in red yellow bin.
It looked like Minnow was actually hesitating long enough that he was thinking, what if I just play the Brute? What happens? And he was probably thinking through the lines of how would Arianel do the trades? Does he still have another 2 turns to live potentially? And looking at the health totals again, maybe there was a potential line of doing the Brute, but this trading just lines up so nicely that it's just so hard to pass on.
It's so clean. It's a clean board clear. You don't have anything on board yourself, which is unfortunate. Oh, he's going for the aggressive line. Okay, so yes, of course, Flame Burst in hand, but the problem here is it's a bit transparent, right?
Actually, yeah, missing that entirely. I didn't even realize that he could go aggressive with the Ground Shaker and be able to threaten the Fates like this. I think it's the right move to make because you have the Flame Burst to deal with anything that's blocking. But then again, the Colossus is a 2-turn clock. How do you deal with the Colossus?
This is my issue. I think it's too transparent, and I feel that Arianel will set up defenses to counter this. Maybe Mino feels that this is the only way he can win the game from this point, but after picking up that Hellfire, I felt that just doing a trade there, maybe sitting back for a little bit, get a Brute down in 2 turns, you could maybe come back. But I guess, on the other hand, you give blue initiative again, and if they just play Battletoads, you're going to be so far behind, it's going to be very hard to win. So I feel that Mino's just figured, okay, the only way I win this is go and face.
But there's a huge threat that Minnow is starting on to Arianel. Does he have a Flash Wind? Does he have the Flame Burst Flash Wind for lethal? Like, do I have to, you know, step back with the Colossus +1 and play the Wave Crash in front of my orb? Do I have to play, for example, the Library to block face and heal? And, okay, I guess that does deal with Flame Burst Flash Wind, so even that wouldn't be lethal now.
I like this line from Arianel. It's what I was thinking. Just heal up, play the library. Now, if Mina was to draw... I don't think there is a draw, actually. I guess you could Soul Pact Hellfire, but...
This is potentially lethal, right? Because if 2 hits the library, and then 6 hits face, that's lethal.
Oh, yeah,
with
wow.
Soul Pact Hellfire. I mean, you have to go for it, right? Just Soul Pact Hellfire. I don't see any other line. You can't draw into a Grimguard and taunt him up. You don't have the land ability to do that. It looks like we're about to see some Hellfire.
If only Mino had one more Faeria, that would have been incredible. Because it would have been lethal with a Flame Burst right now.
Okay, he doesn't have lethal, but he can clear the board. He can come back, collect the Faeria, Soul Pact Flame Burst the Colossus. It's not game over yet.
Oh,
this is actually looking really good for Minnow, except for the fact that Arianel goes into 5 Faeria, has Ninja Toad. He's going to have lethal.
Wow, and that was just a Flame Burst to the face. Was that a misclick?
Wait, yeah, what did I just see?
I just saw Flame Burst go to Mina's own face. I feel that was a misclick. And there we go, Arianel taking yet another game. And Minakara so close there, so close to not only finding lethal, but even stabilizing just a little bit, going after that Hellfire whiffs. But the Flame Burst to your own face isn't going to help in that situation.
That is super unfortunate. At least when Minnow watches the replay, he'll know that the opponent had 2 Ninja Toads, so maybe don't be so upset. There is a chance he could have still found lethal with top decking a Flash Wind and Flame Burst. Still a chance of lethal, or Flash Wind Cypher's Wrath would have been lethal, so potentially he missed out on a game victory, but Arianel had the victory cards in hand if Minnow didn't find it.
This is 2 misclicks we've seen this match. I think that Arianel's is far more costly because it actually gave Mino a better opportunity to win. Whereas Mino's was, I mean, he could have won, but as we know, it was very hard to win from that position. But both players have both misclicked.
Yeah, for anyone that stepped away and missed it, in the first match, it was an Oakling that was trying to get traded into, and a Wind Soldier and Fnatic was meant to line up to kill it. But the Fnatic had actually blocked the path for the Wind Soldier, and so it ended up just fading out. And that Oakling allowed Minakara to get the aggressive land to find lethal on the next turn, so a bit of a stumble for both players, but going into what looks to be a mirror match now.
And it depends on how these players have built their decks. It looks like Arianel's going for them. Oh, I was going to say, it looks like Arianel's going for a Spell Will variation, but Minokaro has a Spell Will of his own, and we do see Archons as well in hand. He's been picking up in popularity recently among Blue Jump players. Did we see any? We didn't see any Archons from Arianel, so potentially not even running it.
Yeah, and I'm curious to hear what you think. From what I've been looking at, it looks like the difference between whether you're on Spell Roll is whether you're on Archon, but in this instance, he's running both. So is it just the case that he doesn't have any libraries? Is that maybe the card that people are substituting with Spell Roll?
I honestly don't know. I thought it was one or the other until now, breaking the rules, breaking conventions. I kind of like the Archon variation a little better than the Spell Will variation at the moment, because there's a lot of Red Rush, there's a lot of Mace Mans running around as well, so being able to trade with them cleanly is very nice. But yeah, interesting to see Mino maybe adopting a different build. Maybe he only runs like 2 Spell Will, 2 Archon, took out a library. That kind of makes up the numbers for you as well.
Yeah, that could be. But, I mean, Spell Roll is a strong card, and we've been seeing it pull some very strong things so far with pulling like Frogifies, more Archons, and some other creatures. In this instance, both players pulled an enchantment. One of them getting an Egg of Wonder is not really that great of a pull. But Minnow with that Disciple can potentially snowball it in this matchup, but Frogify is always a card to answer.
Yeah, I kind of feel both players picked up kind of dead cards after the enchantment, but Minos is better because it's just a creature it can collect, whereas Egg of Wonder is, I don't know, it just doesn't really, it can be really good or it can be really bad, and I don't think you want to invest 5 Faeria into that, because if it picks up a Prophet of Ties, you get a free one for 5 Faeria. If it picks up a Beirut, you're going to be very happy, but yeah, it's usually not worth playing in most cases.
And both players actually with Mythmaker available to them in the first few turns. So no player could be like, oh, you had Mythmaker. Both of them now able to do the Mythmaker line and just sort of exchange blows with their 6/6 bodies. Advantage going over to Minnow, though, as his secondary Toad is going to be able to collect Faeria if he chooses.
Would you ever double neutral to a well, hit one Toad in, then enchant the 6/6, then Aurora, and then keep your 6/2 alive?
That's an interesting line. That actually might be the best line. I was originally thinking you just double land one for the Toad to jump left, one for the Toad to jump right, Mythmaker trade, but I think your line was actually the best with doing the enchantment Mythmaker line.
Because I feel enchant can be a bit iffy in this deck, because Mystic Beasts benefit from it, but not much else. A lot of your creatures have either attack heavy stat lines or equal, like Triton Warrior, Archon, the 4/4s. Ninja Toad's a 3/2, 3/1 on the Prophet, so I feel that could have been a good opportunity to use the enchant there and gain a bit of hand advantage out of it too.
One thing to mention on that note, though, is with these blue decks, typically speaking, you have 3 Mystic Beast, you have 3 Colossus, and so maybe Minnow was saying, if I do a land to each side, or I don't just go up one side super aggressively, I'm going to lose in the mid to late game because I won't have the scaling. I think the trades for him would have been like really optimal, that he could just snowball from having a board advantage, but I see quite often these blue mirrors, players just want to try and go up the opposite side as much as possible.
I think the one thing I would have liked if he had gone for that Aurora line is blocking this bottom lake with the 6/6s sitting on. It's just a much more aggressive avenue for Arianel to utilize, but Arianel's also not defending either, so Mino can equally gain that aggressive advantage as well. But the one thing Arianel does have is initiative right now. He is the aggressor. Mino Caro either needs to just ignore, try and race, or now respond. But how do you go about that? Frogify seems like a pretty good answer. You could Frogify the 6/6, clear it with the 4/2, but then the Mystic Beast takes a free clear on it. So it's an awkward situation, I feel.
Yeah, I honestly think going back to your suggested line, it just would have set him up in such a better situation where now using the Frogify, it's not as good because your opponent gets to collect the Mystic Beast anyway, so just trying to do a trade right now doesn't feel good. And because of that, Minotaur is just going to try and sit back, develop even more creatures, and honestly, developing creatures is a huge thing to do because you want to have more bodies to augment with either Phantasms or with Mythmakers and just get these favorable trades. So not a bad line out of Minocaro, but potentially if he had snowballed the early trades, it would have lined up maybe better for him.
The Battletoads is pretty nice here. It just creates annoying little creatures that Arianel has to work around, figure out what he wants to do here, push damage. He can basically clear both frogs now if he wants to. That is an option. Could push 6 damage, clear 1 frog, but opens himself up a little bit to Frogify. It's a tough turn. I feel like Mino, even though he didn't go for the enchant line, he's actually recovered quite well, because not only is he collecting off his opponents well, so accelerating that Colossus, but he's put enough creatures down just to make life a little bit difficult for Arianel.
Now, as you say that, I'm not really sure, because Arianel's in a decent spot where his Colossus, as he draws them, is going to be discounted. He has priority aggression, and he has a Mystic Beast in hand to follow up with. So I feel like he can just start going face, and I don't know if Minocard can actually ever restore the board from this.
Yeah. I mean, you could double neutral, or you could just 1 lake, 1 neutral, move the frog over, go for the Frogify. But the other Mystic Beast is applying enormous pressure right now. This is a lot to deal with for Minocaro.
Yeah, something of note, just as humor while we're waiting to see what Minnow goes for, it's interesting that Egg of Wonders, even if you get your biggest creature, ideally you want to play the Wave Crash Colossus for 4 Faeria, and Egg of Wonders would be a 5-cost Colossus, even if you got the best possible outcome, so not quite the card he wants in this deck.
I'm trying to figure out a way to efficiently clear everything. I was looking at enchanting. Oh, I don't even need to. So what you could do is you can make a lake next to, in between the Mystic Beasts, jump over, Aurora the 1 frog, clear that out, frogify the Mystic Beast on your lake, clear it with one of your own frogs, and then run the Archon into the 6/4. And that clears the board, and it even gives you more creatures than your opponent.
I'm trying to see if there's a way of doing Frogify Mythic. Are you talking about clearing both Mystic Beasts and the Prophet? Because I think you can clear all 3 creatures.
Yeah, that's
if you
what
do
I
a
was saying.
double land instead. Yeah, double land, Frogify trade. The Toad in the top left jumps to hit face, I guess. You play the Mythmaker in the top left on a Toad. Yeah, there was definitely a full clear ability there.
Wait, this is odd. Okay, go for the aggressive line. I see. Okay, so this is a different way to approach it. Basically, Mino is valuing a way to actually apply pressure himself. Instead of just going for a full clear and just throwing it back to Arianel on 9 Faeria, he's taking an aggressive line here and forced Arianel to have an answer. But that draw right there, combined with the Emperor's Command, is going to allow Aurora to stop that aggression.
Yeah, I was wondering how he was going to do this, and definitely with the Phantasm pickup, it's going to line up really nicely for him, using that command to get the 1 damage that you need.
Now, I feel that if Mino had gone for the more defensive line, he wouldn't be in a situation because the bottom right hand of the board would be clear. There would only be an Aurora left. But now trying to be more proactive, be more aggressive. The Phantasm pickup there was absolutely perfect, and that is going to be it. So Mino Caro fall into the might of Arianel, one of our most experienced recent monthly cup competitors. Has been, well, a top 4 player for quite some time, and even winning a monthly cup himself in the past. So very well played to both players there. But Arianel, once again, keeping the fairy tale dream alive.
Yeah, Arianel playing very efficiently, going pretty aggressive against the green-yellow and having it work out nicely for him. And just finding a way to stabilize against Minnow and get these victories. Congratulations to him in making it through this match.
Excellent game there. That's it for Casterblad. Going back over to Deskblad. What an excellent series there. Thank you very much for casting Casterblad. Scorch, what do you think of that game?
Oh, that was a really incredible series. A lot of very interesting plays coming out from both players. We had a couple misclicks, obviously, throughout the course of that, but really interesting decks coming out from Minocaro there. It'll be very interesting to see how he's able to pull these out in the 3rd place match. Of course, we are going to see both these players again. So,
yeah, it was actually an excellent game for 2 reasons. One, both players made pretty big mistakes, which means that it gave opportunities for players to come back in situations where they maybe couldn't have. But not only that, Mino Caro brought one of the most ambitious lineups I've seen in a very long time. It's kind of on Mayhem level of lineup. He brought like Sack, Dreamweaver, and I think it was Crackthorn. Mino going for Green Yellow Rush, Red Yellow Burn with like Soul Pact and Hellfire, and then going for that blue jump as well. So I was really happy to see Mino get this far. He's been working really hard to become a better player. So it's nice to see that pay off.
Yeah, I don't think we've seen kind of anything of that green-yellow rush since Imperia brought it, I think, kind of way back before the Doomsday nerf that you were mentioning during the cast there. I was almost disappointed in the blue deck that Minocaro brought because the other 2 were so out there with the lineup that then the blue was just standard.
I guess he wanted a fallback. If all goes wrong, I can just fall back to blue jump and reverse sweep my opponent, but unfortunately didn't work that way for Minocaro. Arianel fantastically moves on and it's going to be a grand finalist once again. Team Fairy Tale have been excellent in the last few months.
Yeah, really nice to see just the fact of a top 4 player making it back to the top 4. It's something that actually very rarely happens throughout the course of monthly cups. Generally, it is within the first couple rounds we see those players get knocked out, or it's just kind of a rarity to see them go back to a top 4 finish.
Yeah, we've had... It's incredible. They've done so much as a team, and they should be very proud of their team's performance over the last few months. And this is our 1-year anniversary for the monthly cup. If Fairy Tale was to win it now, there's no question that they are the greatest team in Faeria because of all their finishes. Equilibrium are quite close. They've had a lot of monthly cup wins themselves. Sweetie, Modnik, Lou getting very close as well. Dan's can potentially take that for Equilibrium on the flip side as well if he's to win his semi-finals game. So we have plenty of exciting stuff coming for you guys. But before we go to a break, I know what you guys want. You wanna see some more cards. So Atmaz, if you are about, bring us in. Tell us about this card.
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much. Okay, so you've seen 2 cards so far. You've seen Wild Lands. Now, the Wild Land card you saw only cost 1 Wild Land, so, nothing extremely fancy can be done with a card that just costs 1 Wild Land. So what are you going to expect to see when you start making cards with high Wild Land costs, right? So let's say, for instance, a card costs 6 Wild Lands. Well, in order to play that, you could have, for instance, 3 mountains, 3 forests, in a Crackthorn deck, for instance, or any combination thereof to play for 6 Wild Lands. Well, let's go ahead and reveal our 6 Wild Land cost card, which is going to be called the Yakapult. Now, Yakapult reads, and I'll read it right off the card, ranged. Whenever this attacks, summon a 2/2 Angry Yak in a random space adjacent to the target. So what does that mean? Well, it's pretty straightforward. You play the Yakapult, you shoot it at a unit or an orb, and in a space next to that target, a Yak will appear, a 2/2 Angry Yak. Now, important to note, this Angry Yak does not have haste, as it would in Yak Attack, which specifies Angry Yak with haste. This is still an Angry Yak. I mean, it's still got fired out of a catapult and hit something in the face, but it doesn't quite have haste. So there you have it. High cost Wildland, 6 Wildlands, 3 Faeria, Yakapult range unit. It shoots yaks. Take it away.
I'm going to say straight up, don't get any ideas, guys. Don't put any yaks in catapults. Don't throw them across fields and stuff like that. They're not going to be as durable as Faeria Yaks. But this card is incredibly interesting. I wanna throw over to Cappuccino first. He's got a big smile on his face. What do you think of this card?
I was just facepalming at the amount of yaks that are going to be suicided into battle now. The poor yaks.
Man.
In terms of thinking about the card as a power level card, it's really hard to make out at being 3 Faeria, because I don't know if you can make a deck at 6 Wildlands to have it get played early enough where it's not contested by like a charger, or it's not contested by any aggressive creatures. But anytime you get this on the board and you start shooting, it's going to snowball. So I'm not sure. Maybe the other casters will have to chime in.
No, this card is amazing. Let me tell you why it's amazing. It's a friggin' catapult that shoots yaks. You can fill up the board with yaks. Think about it. And if you're worried about the wildland cost, we got the seed now together with the Earthcraft. All those people that were complaining in chat, oh, seed is worse than Earthcraft. Well, you can run both, then run this out ASAP. It's only 3 Faeria, so it doesn't even set you back that much, and you get 3 yaks to shoot at your opponent's face. Amazing.
And to go back, I completely agree. And to go back on Earthcraft, I don't think we've even begun discussing like all the possibilities with that card. I mean, sure, it's like Earthcraft, but nobody's even talked about turn 1. Like what you can do with a turn 1 seed. You put a forest in front of your orb, dash the seed out forward, next turn, as long as you don't get soul drained or ciphers, which is not going to happen when you're going turn 1 half the time. Anyway, and when it does, you just trade value for value, right? 2 for 2. You move to the right or to the left, and now you have a forward colored land that you could then build land off of and even take the enemy's orb that turn. Like that's how significant an early seed can be. But I don't want to get hung up on seed because we're talking about Yakapult here. And Yakapult, yeah, is exactly an example of a high wildland cost card that any multicolored deck can use. Any single one. 3 Wishes, Crackthorn, blue, yellow, you name it. And probably stuff we're not even going to, that doesn't even exist yet. You can put this in that sort of deck. And it's just a fun card, and also I think really strong. I actually think if this comes down on board, you're going to have a tough time dealing with, like you said, like Cappuccino said, dealing with the longer you let it on board, the more problems going to be. It's going to snowball into quite an issue.
I mean, just look at its art. It's got the best art. It's got the best name. It's the best card ever. What are we discussing? Why are we discussing? Can we just agree this is the best card ever?
Yeah, why is this up for discussion? I think we just need to leave it there.
There we go, guys. Best card in the game, confirmed. Don't worry about
they
any other
made
card.
a yak bump from the word catapult.
Nothing more needs to be said.
What are your thoughts?
I think something in like a Crackthorn deck, this could actually be really good. Sometimes with decks like that, depending on the matchup, we saw it in the game of Aether Llama versus King Dan's. Green-red Crackthorn versus yellow events, and both players get to a point where you're constantly just clearing the board. And then you get, okay, whoever can just play a creature down is going to be able to start snowballing advantage. If you're able to play this in the late game when you have all of your lands set up, it's a cheap, big tempo swing if you can get it to stick on the board. I think that's really big for it when you're in those types of situations. Just because if you play it and you're probably even a little bit behind, it's probably cleared fairly efficiently, and you never get value out of it. But if you're able to play it in a spot where you can get even just 1 yak, it's an incredibly good looking tempo swing. The big thing, Atmaz, why do you do this to us? It's 6 wild lands. We don't know where to put this. Give us a designation. Here's what you do with this card. That's all we want. Simple. But now you do something like this, and now we have no idea what to do.
Oh man, just to chime in again after that Scorch comment really quick. It's actually interesting that this is such a strong synergy with Feed the Forest. Like, I'm looking at this in green-red Crackthorn, and I'm like, wait, is that actually a thing? And then I'm like, no, there's no way they're going to want... Wait, do they want this? it looks pretty good, to be honest, in the green-red Crackthorn list. And then, sorry about that, Atmas.
No, I was just apologizing to Scorch. I think we can all agree this is maybe the most fun we've seen today. I enjoy it, and keep in mind, everyone. I know we're all going to be talking about these cards over the next week or so, and just keep in mind we're going to be internally testing all these numbers. So if you think something is going to be wildly crazy, like if summoning angry yaks is too strong, maybe they need to be sad yaks or calm yaks. We don't know yet. We're still testing it and making sure that it feels right. But we wanted to share this with you because we know everyone's ready for Oversky. Now that the World Boss is over and it's coming this summer, you've seen 3 cards. We have 1 more to show you. And in fact, I've just been told our 3rd place match is ready. So we can move on to that. And as soon as that's done, we can show you our final card for today and maybe do a little recap of it all and move on to our grand finals. How does that sound?
Sounds pretty good to me. I do have one thought about Yakapult before we go. Speaking about green is a colour that comes to mind now. When Yakapult clears a creature, you summon an angry yak. Now, what's really powerful about this is not only are you removing a creature, so you can power this up with Elderwood Embrace, you could Gabriel Enchant, there's many ways you can make Yakapult clear something. Replacing that enemy creature with a friendly creature that can collect on the next turn is actually really powerful.
Yeah, definitely. It's a big tempo swing if you're able to just get 1 angry yak down. I gotta say, with the art on here too, I'm really excited to see what these little raccoon woodland creatures bring out for other cards. Are we seeing a whole brand new faction of creatures coming out? I don't know.
Oh yeah, that's another mystery that Yakapult is giving us. Who are these little woodland creatures, and why are they hurling yaks at people? That is a good question.
No, why wouldn't they hurl yaks at people? That's a good question.
Yeah, who are those little guys? Thinking face.
Anyway, guys, we are going to jump to a break. We do have the next match ready for you. Do not go anywhere. We'll be back with more monthly cup action, but also one more card to show you guys. So stay tuned. We'll be back very soon.